Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll show you a thriller comedy film, The Columnist. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with a feminism columnist, Femke, being interviewed on a television show. The host begins with a question if the social media platform Twitter is a curse or a blessing. Femke addresses her concern about how everyone hates her for voicing a different opinion, when everyone should be accepting her different opinions. Along with the interview is Steven, an author who disagrees with her point. After the interview, Femke reads hate comments about her on Twitter before bed. She then decides to leave Twitter once and for all. The following day, Femke meets the publisher, who is choosing her portrait for her book. The publisher asks why she didn't promote her book in the interview, but she reasons there's no book of hers to promote. The publisher tells her that it's all in the mindset to write something, and gives her a week to write the first chapter. Femke reads her column about politics that caused an uproar online in her home's kitchen. Her daughter joins her at the table, who reads and compliments Steven's well-written book. Afterward, Femke hears a vibration outside her house, revealing her greasy neighbor, Mr. Fatty, collecting boxes and woods on his truck, who waves his hand upon seeing her. Femke returns to her empty first chapter draft, staring at the screen while Mr. Fatty's hammering booms outside. Despite the approaching deadline, she checks Twitter and sees her farewell tweet still bombarded with insults and hate. Afterward, she meets her friend in an apparel shop, advising her to write columns accustomed to women instead, and keep out of politics. Her friend adds she should ask for police assistance, rather than a television show. So next, she does visit the police station, to report the hate and death threat messages she receives. However, the police officer on the desk belittles her concern, and even comments that everything sent to her is merely fictional and childish. Meanwhile, the daughter's school headmaster calls her into his office, to address her usage of profane words in the school newspaper. However, the daughter bravely responds that his actual concern is the content, because she insults the headmaster's plans for the school, and not profanity. Because of that, the headmaster removes her from the school newspaper's editorial team. At home, the daughter shares with her mother her plan to initiate a freedom of speech awareness event at school. But Femke responds that it's too old school, which angers her daughter, because she intends to address the risks and dangers experienced by writers in Russia, Turkey, and the Philippines on the internet for expressing their thoughts. She angrily leaves, but returns eventually to ask her mother to bring her to school, because her bike broke. En route, Femke asks her daughter if there's bullying in her school. The daughter remembers throwing a rock at a boy, but Femke comments that the boy deserves it, because he's a prick. The daughter is surprised by her mother's words and calls her out, but Femke continues insulting the boy. After dropping off her daughter, Femke buys goods in the grocery, while rereading tweets about her. Upon grabbing a tomato sauce, she sees a tweet calling her sexual insults, causing her to drop the sauce in shock, for the account owner is none other than her next-door neighbor, Mr. Fatty. She stares at the sauce, and comes up with something sinister. Upon arriving home, she greets Mr. Fatty, who's fixing the fences between their houses. It's late night, and Femke accompanies her friend to the apparel shop, serving gin and tonic. She comes across Mr. Fatty's tweet, containing hate comments about her. She downs 2 glasses of liquor, and returns home afterward. She stares at the finished fences, and wrecks them with her axe. The following day, Mr. Fatty sees the broken fence, and doorbells to her house, informing her someone wrecked their fence, which she pretentiously acts oblivious about. He then gives her a leftover ham, but she trashes it the moment she's alone. Femke attempts another try to write her chapter, but she idles on Twitter again. She finds Mr. Fatty's tweet, with a subtle message that he knows that she's the one who broke the fence. On the roof, Mr. Fatty fixes the roof's rim, and she decides to exit from her house's skylight. She carefully walks the edge, and pushes off his fat muscles on the edge. Mr. Fatty lies dead on the ground, his blood spilling with diabetes. She grabs a shovel, mutilates his middle finger, and hides it. After her horrendous crime, she enthusiastically writes her book's first chapter. The following day, she happily prepares pancakes for her daughter, and even gifts her a camera. With the use of the camera, the daughter photographs her friend, and creates a poster for her event in the library. Femke joins her, and compliments the poster. She then offers to do a speech at her event, which the daughter happily accepts. The daughter then plasters the finished posters in school, and the headmaster summons her into his office again, to ask what the poster is all about. But she clarifies it's about freedom of speech issues, faced by other countries and not the school newspaper. Meanwhile, Femke attends a book launch. She comes across the publisher, and jokes that she must be allergic to books, because she gets headaches after book launches. She then approaches Steven among the audience, and calls him out for being unfriendly to her in the previous interview. But Steven explains that he only attended the show to promote his book. They even brag about who's more cynical than the other. After the event, Femke returns home with Steven, and they get busy in bed. The following day, the two enjoy breakfast together, and the daughter is shocked to see the author Steven. But she leaves quickly after getting food in the kitchen. After their confirmed relationship, Steven becomes a frequent hormone visitor. Femke's daughter and Steven bond too, where they watch movies together. Then sometimes, Steven and Femke write together in her office. Femke glances at Steven, who writes uninterruptedly. She then visits her women column article online, and reads the comments section. She finds a comment saying they should skewer her on a beach, but Steven stops him from reading further, so she copies the account name first, and exits the site. Later that night, however, Femke stalks the name she copied earlier, and decides to pay the account owner a visit. She quietly enters the house, and the account owner is a curly-haired man, nicknamed Explode Hair. He's cooking, but takes a toilet break. When Explode Hair returns, he's surprised to see Femke at his house. Femke then asks if his girlfriend would love receiving death threats, like his comment in her article. Explode Hair admits he won't do it to his girlfriend, because she doesn't write stupid feminist articles. The statement triggers Femke, and so she chokes him with a scarf. Explode Hair struggles to grab the knife, but his hand only crashes to the pan, and he breaks free. Femke tells him that he insulted the wrong woman, and slams the hot pan on his face, but spares his exploding hair. She then mutilates his middle finger, and hides it in her freezer upon arriving home. The following day, Femke successfully finishes another chapter, inspired by last night's crime. While in the school, the daughter hangs a banner that degrades the king, and promotes freedom of speech. Meanwhile, Femke grocery shops with Steven, who compliments her article. And they eat dinner outside, where Femke agrees with Steven that everyone has undoubtedly suppressed violent urges. But for Femke, it's about suppressed hatred to others, that sometimes can be released in a violent way. It's late at night, and Femke struggles to write another chapter again, while Steven and her daughter watch news in the living room, about a man killed by a frying pan. Femke then searches Twitter, and finds an account named Boskabouter, claiming that Femke is a pedophile. Under the tweet, there is a keyboard warrior like Daniel CC Movie, who agrees with Boskabouter's tweet. Once again, Femke acquires a new victim, and leaves her family a note, saying she's heading to the grocery. But she actually visits her next victim. She brings a bag filled with gardening tools, then finds her next victim in the bath, while rapping the intro song from Daniel CC Movie channel. Femke confronts him, but he immediately apologizes upon recognizing her, saying all the tweets are harmless jokes, and promises he'll stop for he's a kind man. She smiles, pretending she accepts the apology, and walks towards the door, when she suddenly grabs and drops the playing laptop onto the bathtub, electrocuting the keyboard warrior, and then mutilates his middle finger. She returns home, hides the severed middle finger, and successfully finishes another chapter again in her good mood. Femke continues this sinister method to acquire ideas in her book. She murders not one, not two, but 3 more people who insult her on Twitter. She then lays down 8 mutilated fingers on a ground of peas. New Year's Day passes soon, and Femke happily celebrates it with Steven and her daughter. Femke returns home late one night, and finds Steven waiting by the door. She hides her bloody hands from him, as he confronts if she's cheating on him, which she denies and assures him that there's no one she loves but him. As a sign of reconciliation, Steven embraces him, and she immediately fronts her bloody hands to hide them from him. The following day, Femke meets the publisher, who shows her threat mail to boycott the publishing house, if they didn't terminate the contract with Femke. The mail is becoming rampant, after Femke's article released years ago is brought up on Twitter, revealing her relationship with a 16-year-old boy when she was still 19. Despite the threats, the publisher asks if it's okay with Femke to add some portions of the threats at the back of the book, to stir up controversy on the internet. It's late at night, and the daughter makes another banner for school, because the headmaster removed her previous banner that used profanity. Femke then helps her paint the new banner, but repeatedly calls the headmaster a prick. The following day, the daughter showcases the second banner, and heads to school. Femke, who's through with the headmaster's interference in her daughter, wants to kill him. So she visits her daughter's school, and follows the headmaster to his house. She exits her car, with a knife in hand, but stops on her track, upon seeing the headmaster embrace his lovely daughter. So she returns to her car, dumps her gardening bag tools beside her, and throws a tantrum on the steering wheel, because she can't believe what she's thinking. Femke writes her next chapter at home, when the daughter says there are police looking for her. They visit her because they receive a call, reporting a child hostage hidden by Femke. She clarifies it's all made up. The officers then ask if an enemy of hers must have done it. Femke then recalls a Twitter account Bosk about her that leads an army of trolls who intend to destroy her name. One of the police officers mentions something different, but she hears Tarek instead. After the police's visit, Femke searches the internet for Tarek, but there's nothing found until Steven knocks on the door to offer her food, startling her. She almost shouts at him and apologizes afterward to him. Meanwhile, the daughter finds Femke's bag filled with bloody gardening tools and takes a photo of it with her camera. The following day, the daughter speculates that Steven owns the bloody tools and not her mother. Later that night, the news reports the commonality in all the deaths for the past few months, which is that the killer mutilated the middle finger after killing them. Therefore, the internet names the series of murders the Middle Finger Murders. The following day, Femke returns to her study room to continue her writing, but she's out of ideas again. The interest in the name Tarek piques her urge, so she searches Facebook, but there's nothing. She then browses her article about soups and reads to find her next victim in the comments. After finding one, she hastily bids goodbye and excuses to buy groceries for tomorrow. Before she leaves, Steven warns her to stay away from Twitter. Afterward, Femke goes to her tool shed and finds her bag of tools gone on the shelf. So she grabs the chisel instead. She then travels to an isolated house in the woods, and she finds there lives her next victim, an old man with a dying mustache. Mr. Dying Mustache exits his house, and Femke immediately sticks the chisel on his neck. Femke binds and confronts him where his computer is, but he only spits on her. So she searches for it alone, but Mr. Dying Mustache manages to escape and tells his wife to call for the police while setting up his shotgun. Femke then finds Mr. Dying Mustache gone, so she searches for him outside. Suddenly, Mr. Dying Mustache appears behind with his dying mustache and hits the shotgun's butt on her head. He thinks Femke is knocked out, but she unexpectedly swipes the chisel on his chick neck, but spares his mustache. The shotgun falls to the ground, and she grabs it immediately. But he runs his smelly mustache to the woods for life. Upon chasing Mr. Dying Mustache, Femke receives a call from her daughter because she promised to partake in a speech, but she only hangs up. Inside the house, Mr. Dying Mustache's wife calls the police, while Femke chases after him. Meanwhile, Steven volunteers to give the speech instead, since Femke is not around, but the daughter declines his offer and decides she'll do it herself. The speech tackles that not everyone in the world can freely practice freedom of speech, because there are writers in different countries who suffer from hate when they voice a different opinion. The thing is, freedom of speech is a right and not a privilege, and they can't silence someone who wants to voice out an opinion. While the daughter gives the speech, simultaneously occurring as Femke shoots down Mr. Dying Mustache in the woods. Her killings prove her written speech is true to her actions, because she chose to permanently silence the people who threw hateful comments at her. Femke escapes as the sirens of the police cars ring nearby. When she's home, the daughter is mad at her for missing her speech and decides she'll stay at her biological father's house. The following day, she avoids the internet, strolls outside the fields, and buys an old-looking phone. She tries to reach her daughter and tells her about the book launch, but the daughter dismisses them. Then later at her home, Femke finds a letter with a message that they know her secret, but she dumps it in the trash. Steven then meets Femke, strolling on the street. He shows her a comment from her article, and among the comments, she finally finds Tarek, the keyboard master. That night, Femke is tempted to check her smartphone, while Steven finds the letter that Femke dumps in the bin, and compares the handwriting in the daughter's bedroom, and it matches. The following day, Femke and Steven are in the kitchen, when the daughter unexpectedly returns home to visit her book launch. Then Femke wears an all-white outfit, and brings a shotgun from her previous victim to finally meet Tarek. Meanwhile, the daughter confronts Steven with printed newspapers as proof of his killings. Steven cooks as he listens to her claims and grabs a box of flour from the fridge. The two go quiet as they realize that it's actually Femke who murdered all of the keyboard warriors, and the proofs inside the box floor filled with severed fingers. The movie ends with Femke arriving at Tarek's house. She shoots down the man who opens the door, but she's surprised to see that it's actually Tarek's father, and the ultimate keyboard master. Tarek is only a teen. He cries like a baby as he apologizes for his hate comments about her and reasons it's all simply harmless jokes. But Femke is through with it and shouts that he deserves to die because his slanderous accusations online caused her too much pain. When she's about to let him go, Steven arrives, which startles and triggers her to shoot Tarek. Steven says that no one deserves to die, which angers Femke. As the daughter takes a photograph of Femke's souvenir mutilated fingers, Femke attends her book launch while covered with Steven's blood, and the audience doesn't speculate her being a murderer, but instead, applauds her blood-stained white outfit as a statement that matches her book cover. Right then, she grabs a drink and her newly published book from the publisher, climbs the stairs, and toasts ears to life. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.